course, Wednesday comes with its fair share of opportunities and challenges, but we embrace them with confidence and resolve. It's your perfect morning starter. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. As always, blessed among men. Hi, guys.
Good morning, Bukola.
Good morning.
And good morning to you. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.
And I'm Kaido Kikulu. It's midweek already.
Yeah, midweek. So what are you tracking?
Yeah, it's ending, right?
Oh, yes.
I wasn't expecting that in March.
You can say that again.
A lot of people are saying the year is running so fast. They wanted it fast, but it's running rather faster than they expected. I don't know what, maybe they're panning it around their expectations or their plans. I wouldn't know why. But I've been watching what's going on in the Americas, you know, all of them. Canada, United States, and Mexico. Everybody's throwing tariff at each other. And Trudeau, I don't know how long he has to stay in office, but he's been speaking very strongly against the tariff, and he says it's the dumbest idea, agreeing with one of the publications in America. Well, I think that Donald Trump, what he tries to do most of the time in trying to bring you to the negotiation table, he can do things that are quite almost irrational, because for him, he just wants as many companies to come and open shop in America as possible. Whether that will pan out well or not, it's another kettle of fish. But these guys have decided, okay, you want to play that tit for tat that Konjo while at WTO DG had warned against, let's play the game. So while they are doing all of that, China is just somewhere, Korea is just somewhere, Japan is just somewhere doing and closing in all the gaps that are being created. So we're just there as developing world, as global south, just watching what plays out. I think our government should step up as well to see how we can take advantage of all. Yeah, they do. We should. What can we do to take advantage of what is going on among the big boys? Because we're not on that table, and I'm happy we're not. But however I can take advantage of it, good for us.
Well, I'll be interested in hearing your suggestions. What do we have to bring to the table? More often than not, when you're negotiating with the big powers, those who have all the aces. So what are you bringing? So I'll be interested in knowing your suggestions and see how we can take advantage of this.
There's a lot going on. It's about knowing what it is that is a gap that has been created by that war. You know, prices will go up on all sides. Some of the backward integration or integration that is being done because some things are produced here and produced here and produced and crossing, going across borders. So if it's a challenge of because of the tariff is high and they may not be able to buy, if we can offer those things as a lesser price because tariff is not against us, why don't we export it? So it's for industry, trade and investment, what do you call it, is it ministry now?
Yeah.
And the other ones that are in charge. What do we give to America that is not high in tariff that Canada and Mexico doesn't give to them? We use it and collect dollars. That's my own. Take advantage of every opportunity.
Well, I don't know about that. There's some things that we do have. We have crude oil, for instance.
No, we're buying crude oil
we've been able to maximize our own potential as far as crude oil is concerned, both for, you know, homegrown uses and international uses. That's on the one hand. Gas is another, you know, product that we have, but have we also been able to maximize our potential in that regard? What's the you know, the domestic production of gas at home? So, you know, there's so many issues around that, but that's not what I'm tracking. Kadi, Jeffrey, for me, there's a new twist to you know, the River State political crisis, if you ask me, with a group of local government chairmen elected in 2015 coming on board to say a court of appeal has sort of reactivated the oath of office that they took in 2015, and they are the duly elected local government chairmen that should assume office now, and I've asked Governor Simlai Fubara to work with them. Don't forget that following that Supreme Court verdict that gave victory, of course, to the Martin Amewule-led Assembly, that also stopped the release of funds by the CBN subsequently to the River State government. Some local government chairmen elected under the immediate past administration are also saying that, oh, by that judgment, they have also been returned to office. So I'm wondering, this is a new twist to the local government, to the political crisis in River State. Are they, you know, coming on board as a result of genuine activism, saying, oh, yeah, they are the rightfully elected chairman? Or is it a sort of engineering or re-engineering from the background to sort of create problems from many sides for the current administration in River State? It would be an interesting conversation and something to watch out for in the coming days. But more importantly, you know, this appears as if it's democracy in action, evolving right before our very eyes. And it, brings a new dimension to that conversation on the need for the subnationals to look inwards and generate revenue. So how Governor Siminalayi Fubara will handle this in the coming days in terms of revenue generation for the running of the business of governance in Rivers State will be very instructive and will be, a study in democratic action in Nigeria.
That's why I find it quite interesting, the conversation Jeffrey started with, what do we bring to the table, and what you're talking about. Too many times, we just provide the table, because Africa is known for providing raw materials, right? Whether it's, I don't even want to get into it, but Africa for decades, centuries now, has been responsible for just providing raw materials. Don't worry, give us raw materials, we'll make it. So a lot of times we're not even on the table in that sense. We are maybe the table or responsible for, something that is used to produce something. And I think that's why we should really wake up. All of these issues will not push us far. This is a time for us to sit down and say, hey, what do we want to make of ourselves as nations? Enough of I'm this and that, and then everybody disagrees. And for decades, we are left stagnant, not being able to produce very simple things. Why? Because we're still stuck with the primordial sentiment. So I find it interesting, really, yesterday when news broke that former Akwa State Governor Emmanuel Odom was being grilled, that's the word usually used, by the EFCC. He honored an invitation, then he was eventually detained or arrested because there was some petition that was written against him by the Network Against Corruption and Trafficking, and the petitioner alleged that he received 3 trillion naira from the Federation account in 8 years, but left a debt profile of 500 billion naira, an unpaid ongoing project worth 300 billion naira. It was also alleged to be unable to account for 700 billion naira. Well, that's what I'm tracking. All of these things come together. So for us to just sit down and say, what do we want to make of ourselves?
At the end of the day, let's see how that plays out, because a lot more governors will observe are supposed to be answering questions from the EFCC. All we have to do is to see, I think what we do most of the time, even as media, is that we know the monies that are being earmarked, but the spending is what we really struggle with most of the time, because all these allegations, let's put that fact out there. But politicians have had their way. They know the way to steal. For those who steal, they can still clean, and and you have to trace and trace. But that's the job of the EFCC, to find out who is stealing what. So we hope that well, you'll be able to answer for himself. Udom Emmanuel, the governor, whether it's, I don't know, I don't think he's still in detention. I'm not sure. But whatever it is an allegation. He will answer for himself. What I'm saying is that a lot more governors should be answering questions, because we see all of this money is coming into our economy. We don't see the impact on society. That means somebody's not doing his or her job. But let's get to what we're talking about today. It has to do with governance, national issue. One of the senators from the Federal Republic will be joining us on the program to break it down for us, some of his own perspective as far as national politics is concerned. But we're also going to zoom in on what's going on in the southeast and probably Anambra State as well. Elections are coming this year, sometime in November. So as a senator, he will speak to national and sub-national issues. Senator Victor Umeh is our guest on the program.
Yeah, and we'll also be zeroing in on his region, the southeast, particularly on matters of security that have significantly affected the lives of the people, their businesses and regional development. We'll be touching base with a former special assistant to the Imo State Governor to find out the lapses of the state government as well as possible solutions.
And access to food is a significant challenge that a lot of Nigerians face, but even more so, those living with disabilities find it harder and seem to have the short end of the stick. So our guest will be joining us to analyze the policy gaps and proper solutions or potential solutions to ensure effective and inclusive food access.
Well, while the Americas, North America specifically, combining Mexico, Canada, and the United States are busy dragging themselves, we will be exploring conversation between Nigeria and Taiwan and what trade relationship we can explore to make the most of both nations. The representative in Nigeria will be joining us on the program this morning.
And listen to this one. It's very important for every parent. While the internet is a valuable tool for learning and entertainment, it can also pose a significant risk to children. We'll be discussing how to make this valuable tool, a safe place for our leaders of hopefully today and tomorrow, our children.
Amen to that. So while we will have a bumper package for you on the show this morning, let's untie it and start off with the dailies. What are the dailies saying? By the way, you can be part of the show through that email, themorningbrief@channelstv.com. Let's hear from you, be a part of the conversation. It's going to be a lot today, but let's start off with Nigeria News Direct. Yeah, Nigeria News Direct is the very first daily we're looking at this morning. It is Wednesday, by the way, March the 5th, and that's what you find on the front page. Jeffrey, does this give you joy? Power generation peaks at 5,713 megawatts, highest in 4 years.
I don't think we should be celebrating things like this. It's just a waste of our time, waste of our... What is this?
What's more important is transmission and distribution. So it's not enough to celebrate generation of over 5,000 megawatts.
We commend them for, you know, one of the things I like about TCN, let me say this for context, they always update us, Kayode. If you go to the National Grid handle on X, every hour they are telling you something. I think if they want to give, if I want to give most effective communicator of federal agencies, I'll give it to them, because you go there, you're seeing numbers, whether it's good or bad. But we've been here again and again. Before you know, they say we're at 6. We're far, far, far below our expectation. So let's stop all of this. It's not an achievement that is worth celebrating. But when we hit 10,000,
the entire Ministry of Power can transfer some of that efficiency, you know, to the protection of the assets, you know, the grid. At a time there were concerns that, you know, some of those critical assets were in the hands of terrorists. So we need that efficiency in that space as well. Yeah,
Kayode just said to me, he knows that I'm not impressed. You know, I'm already angry that I'm on Amb Andy Yih-Ping.
I saw that story and it was screaming Jeffrey. So I said, hey, I can't just miss that opportunity.
Let's just get to 10,000, then we can start talking.
Right.
We've been around this 5,000, 5,000. Do you know how many times we celebrated 5,000 plus? How many times we can count? How many times? Oh, we have 5,000 plus. Yeah. I think under Muhammadu Buhari, we celebrated several. What is that?
So
please.
The goal is, let's maintain this first. But most importantly is to improve on this and ensure that the people who need the power get the power. I know we can talk about cost as well, which is a major part of this conversation that is usually very thorny, right? The cost of it. They say cost-reflective tariff. But let's just leave it there. Jeffrey's obviously not impressed. A lot of Nigerians aren't, as you would expect, but way to go. Let's maintain it and let's increase it and ensure Nigerians get power. And this should become a thing of the past. UpNepa should be out of our vocabulary in 2025.
And now that you talked about tariff, Kayode, ever since the commencement of implementation of telecommunications tariff, have you noticed any significant improvement in service delivery of your provider as far as telecommunication is concerned?
It still is the usual thing I deal with.
Funny enough, I've not paid attention. Well, I know it's more expensive. That is really obvious, but I have not really paid attention to. Now, a lot of people use data in different ways. Some don't use it at home. They don't use their mobile data at home because they probably have fiber or what have you. Some only use it when they are out. And for those who work from home, they probably wouldn't use it at all. Right? So, or for people who just maybe use it when they're not even at work, because some people get internet at work as well. So it might be tricky for some people to really keep tabs. So it's tricky for me. But for others, let us know. Is it better? Yeah. Let us really know if it's better for you.
My router at home sometimes behaves like it has mood swings. So that it works excellently. You don't ever have a problem.
Well, it's an important conversation so that we can amplify the negativity or the positivity of the service following their, you know, advocacy for increase in tariff, which they have achieved, by the way.
Two quick stories. Pardon me, just two quick stories for mentioning. PDP expels BOT chair Wabara over alleged anti-party activities. One. And you see, Adeleke visits Akpoti as Osun APC Bika. Now, you need to understand what that is about. Adeleke visits Akpoti. Adeleke is what?
PDP.
Akpoti is APC. So, we'll just leave it there.
Will there be a resolution to the local government crisis in Osun State after that visit? It's just a question.
Baba Akpoti has left Lagos now. Baba Akpoti is a big thing. It's on the move.
It's what it is, actually.
Yeah, and elder in the room. Kade, you're the one keeping tabs on the number of trips, by the way. Yeah,
which of these headlines are being shared? The first one was shared to you.
You're the one that keeps tab on the number of trips. Tinubu's trips attracted 50 billion foreign investment. Projects 30% return on investment contribution to GDP by 2030. 2025 budget roadmap for economic resilience and progress. So,
Jeffrey, don't forget that's proposed foreign investment. We don't actually have it in terms of tangibility on the ground at home yet.
It's attracted. That means there's an agreement, or there's an understanding, or there's a pledge. Not that things they've opened shop. Perhaps that's what he's talking about. As we speak, the value of our GDP is less than 200 billion. If I stand to be corrected, but it's about that, because of all the things that's going on. Maybe when we rebase, it can go higher. So if we want to do the 1 trillion by 2030, we should be aiming double digits. We're doing single digit now, 3 point something. Maybe by this year, if we do 4, 5, then there's hope somewhere.
Well,
perhaps.
Let's also talk about the positive sides to the conversation. The Ministry of Trade and Investment is very high on optimism as far as industrialization and digitalization of trade is concerned. So there's a lot of work going on apparently, but there's a difference between effort and results. So we're looking at the contribution of that ministry in terms of the measure to GDP over a long period. And trust us, we're going to keep tabs on that space and see how it's going.
Because one of the things thank God you mentioned it. I've always talked about effort versus result. I know effort leads to result, but sometimes I just feel some of these government agencies and ministries and ministers should just get the work done and come and report to us what they've done. I'll give you an example. Tunji Ojo, he just talks and he gets it done. That is how to. The things he has done is not perfect, but the things he's done, other ministers who have served in that ministry, it felt like it was not possible. Now he's done it.
And it looks possible.
And it looks possible. So, how many are they now? 49 or 50 or 52? I don't know how many. But whatever number they are, everybody should emulate that style. Get the work done and come and report to Nigerians, this is what we've done. All of these projections, aspirations, everybody has done it before. Nigerians are impatient about these things. They want things done as quickly as possible because they are suffering. That's what it is. Which paper do we go to next?
Well, this Nigeria is up next. Jeffrey, just before we exit Blueprint, there's something we're missing at the top, which is worrying. Body of ex-immigration CG Paradang found in Abuja hotel. That's according to the police force. That's really worrying. Well, let's go to this Nigeria newspaper and listen to this. 3 oil firms own up to $5.6 billion indebtedness to federal government. Auditor General's report nails culprits. Reps issue 2 weeks ultimatum for payment. So which oil firms have been named? We have to dive into the Auditor General's report to find out indeed who these oil firms are, so that we can, hold them accountable to this. $5.6 billion is a whopping sum that could solve a lot of our nation's problems. The Auditor General's report is always revealing, but the facts, the issue is, how far do we go, to bring accountability into that space, including the subnationals, that more often than not necessarily accountable in terms of the spending of their own, state appropriation bills. So, well, that's a big revelation there, $5.6 billion. There are others also, ones that we've tracked also earlier on. Ex-Akpabio Governor Emmanuel in EFCC net over alleged 700 billion naira fraud.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think when you go to the what you are saying, these are what the dailies are reporting. So what exactly are you saying? I think we talked about this a few days ago. The video of the traffic around the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, that came through yesterday.
If we can see that, I wish you can see that video. In Lagos, you see pedestrians. Yes. So if you don't live in Lagos, this is Oshodi area. I call it one of the most central part of Lagos. One area is going towards Ikeja. One is going towards the Mile 2. One you enter the direction of Mushin that can lead you to Nikma, and then Ikorodu Road. Then in the back direction can lead you to 3rd Mainland Bridge. So it's quite a central point. These are human beings on the bridge, and this is very concerning. What is was there a festival? Is this a normal thing? It's been long I passed through that place.
This speaks to population.
Yeah,
particularly
so
around that area.
There's a main bridge that was closed, so this is the alternative bridge. So naturally, you should have the traffic split between the main bridge and this one. Maybe just few people use this one. So now that the main bridge is closed, everybody's besieging this particular one, and you can see how tiny it is. So that's what's responsible for this. I know the Lagos State government, the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, acknowledged the challenges and said that, this will be sorted, and the government is already thinking of a way to address the situation. But hey, it is what it is.
So what are you saying? We have trust issue. Interesting name, by the way. Who says, imagine telling your boss you came late to work because of traffic on a pedestrian bridge. The government needs to regulate the inflow of people into the state because this is getting out of hand. Well, you have the next one.
Balama_Sean says, I think the Lagos State government should consider providing more BRT buses. The current number is not enough, as all BRT terminals are always overcrowded, especially on Mondays.
On Mondays, and you must give it to those people who are not crossing the highway. They're just sticking to use pedestrian bridge. Nigerians, we're law-abiding. And Austin Osuma has this to say. The reason for the traffic on the pedestrian bridge is because Kai officials are catching people who cross the road. Otherwise, that bridge is empty most hours of the day. Lagos is not overpopulated. It's just that it is poorly planned. That's what this user says. The truth is, there's a lot of people in Lagos. I don't think we should run away from the fact that Lagos. Have you seen what Lagos looks like on the map? And see how many people are in Lagos?
It's really crowded. I think the number is over 20 million. We understand.
Exactly.
And then you have vehicles and human beings, and then you have people that come in and go out of Lagos. Lagos is a gateway city.
Yeah.
2 ports. Now we're expecting 3 ports.
Well, Ogun is the gateway city.
Ogun is the gateway city.
Don't collect it from us. Lagos is more of a port city.
Lagos is the gateway city
no, it's
to
the
Nigeria.
port
Ogun
city.
can own the name. It's not by name. With the greatest respect to my Ogun brothers and sisters.
No, Lagos is port city. Ogun is gateway city.
Does Ogun have an international airport?
Just
how many seaports?
There's a cargo airport.
Ogun is coming up on a cargo airport.
All these Egba and
traffic.
It's data. It's fact.
Excuse me. How many airports here? Sorry, Governor Abiodun, I didn't mean that. I'm just saying, 2 airports, 1 airport, the second one in the works, 2 seaport, what do you call it? Seaport now.
So that's why I say Lagos is a port city. The airport, seaport, other ports. Leave gateway for Lagos, Jeffrey. This is the last one.
You mean leave gateway for Ogun?
Sorry, leave gateway for Ogun, Jeffrey. All right.
All right.
If that would make this Ogun people calm down, it's fine. Take your.
Well, let's go to the next talking point, which is a very important subject matter. Bill to end HND BSc dichotomy skills second reading. Now, this has been for long an issue of concern for graduates of HND at the polytechnic level. So this is coming to solve that problem, hopefully. But there are stories that abound about them graduating and being discriminated against, particularly when there are opportunities to land very, very lucrative jobs. I've, for instance, had to, empathize with a friend who is a very, very qualified mass communication graduate, but from a polytechnic, and was unable to proceed to do a master's degree at a university because what they had was a polytechnic degree, HND diploma, as the case may be. So this hopes to solve that problem, and it has been proposed by a federal lawmaker from Lagos, I believe Honorable Laguda. So Adetunji is the first user this morning who's saying ending the HND BSc dichotomy sounds good, but will it truly level the playing field without addressing curriculum gaps, employer bias, and skill relevance? A law alone won't change much. Is this reform meaningful or just political optics? So guys, will it change mindsets? Good question.
That's right. That's why it's not a law. When it becomes a law, you abide by what the law says. Bro Shayo, right?
Oh,
Shayo.
Shayo, okay. BSc and HND are not the same. There is no need to focus on any dichotomy. let the market choose which options it finds desirable.
Okay, that's another side of this conversation. But quickly, let's talk, okay, let's take one more on this one. Okay, yeah, this is from Alberta, where it says, I wonder what is difficult in upgrading our polytechnics. Ghana has done the needful by converting theirs to technical universities, and this is just basically be like Ghana. But we need to talk sports, guys, because we're building up to the Super Eagles match, and Eric Shale has released his team list, and guess who's there? One of the people there, Ahmed Musa.
He's back in the team.
Oh, yes. So he returns as Super Eagles release list for World Cup qualifiers. So Ahmed Musa, you can't take away the experience.
He's our captain.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate. What is he still doing in the team? Obviously, he can't, he's not in his prime anymore, right? So what is he still doing in that team?
Name sounds old to me, even me. Go ahead, Kennedy. I couldn't resist that.
Didn't see that coming, Nicole.
Go ahead.
Wow, so your sports is now... Anyway, so let's take Adetunji Adewolu on Ahmed Musa returning as Super Eagles release the list for World Cup qualifiers. Says, congratulations to him. However, as an experienced player, he should use it to help the coach in the dressing room. What, isn't the assistant coach?
Well, he's a captain, so he has a role to talk to the boys. Anyway, that's much we can take as far as your thoughts are concerned, but there's more. As if we have time, we'll take more of them. But don't forget, keep it coming. CTV Morning Brief. Send us an email. Also, send messages and videos on WhatsApp. I'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get to that very first conversation with Senator Victor Umeh. Join us again. Welcome back. Let's now talk governance and politics. We're being joined on the program by Senator representing Anambra Central, Senator Victor Umeh. He joins us from Abuja studio. Distinguished, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So there's a lot to unpack within the time we have, and I'm spoiled for choice. But maybe we'll begin with one of the most controversial in the past few days that has to do with that face-off between the senator representing, coming from Kogi State, Senator Natasha Akpoti and the Senate President that has escalated. I don't know how many senators, past and present, lawmakers that have now granted interview because of some of the revelations she's made and allegations she's made. It has taken even some form of, you can call it colorations, whether it's ethnic or regional. But I wanted your generic view on what is playing out between the senator and the Senate President. What's your view as far as the allegations are concerned, and the responses that the Senate, even the leadership of the Senate, is giving to some of those things raised?
Well, this is actually not something I would have loved to start with in this interview, but putting it across first, I will not shy away from it. For the fact that I'm a senator, and the issues developing are things that will impinge on the integrity of the Senate as an institution. We will not stay by and allow the Senate as an institution be brought to disrepute and ridicule, because the allegations that came on the media through the interview you are referring to, the allegations are allegations that one would not expect to come from somebody who is a senator. The Senate is not a small institution. It's a very big institution, the highest parliament in this country. It's not a House of Assembly, and it's not perhaps the House of Representatives. It's the Senate. And the people who are in the Senate are expected to conduct themselves with the highest decorum possible. So you would imagine how scandalized any senator would be to watch on television, see a senator make those allegations against the presiding officer, the Senate President. It's not something anybody can wish away and sweep under the carpet. One is that for you to be able to sustain such an allegation in a brazen manner on television What you are saying must be impeccable. It must be justifiable. And even if it is justifiable, there are rules and procedures of addressing anything. Running to the television and begin to throw such allegations, myself, I take a great exception to that. I've listened to the interview about 3 times to be able to see if I can make anything out of it. And just like previous senators have spoken on the matter, including former female senators and a serving senator, that's a female, I've listened to Senator Iretikingebe, who is the Chairman Senate Committee on Women Affairs. I saw her on Rise Television making her own points. I've also seen Senator Biodo Olujimi, former minority leader of the Senate, herself a woman. I also saw her position. Yesterday, I also saw Senator Florence Etagewa, a female senator of this republic, sometime in the past, and she also came out with her own position. Looking at this, I just referred to 3 women who, 2 have been senators here, and 1 is still serving. You will see that 1 will not be accused of trying to jump in to take side with the Senate president because he's a man. I think the whole thing is very nauseating because something that started with a very simple, as it appeared, misunderstanding over allocation of seats has snowballed into a wildfire, which was unnecessary. When the first issue came up, that was the issue of seating arrangement. I wasn't in the chamber, I was in Lagos on assignment on behalf of the Senate, and I saw all those things on television, and I wondered how that could be an issue. The Senate is guided by rules. We have our standing rules, and everybody has standing rules of the book rules of the Senate. If you go there, those rules were copiously read out on the day this issue happened first time, and it was obvious that the Senate President has the full powers by section, Order 6, Rule 1. The Senate President allocates seats to everybody in the Senate. And Rule 6.2 says that the Senate President may change the seats at any time. So it's an unquestionable authority of the Senate President to allocate seats to anybody. And if he allocates seats for any reason to someone and the person refuses to accept that seat, it means the person doesn't want to participate in the proceedings of the Senate. So when that thing happened, I felt it was an action taken by our colleague trying to make fuse out of it, because she cannot pick and choose where to sit. And what led to the situation in the chamber was that she refused to accept the seat assigned to her. That is the rule of the Senate. If you want to be a senator, you have to be guided by the rules, and you must observe it. If there's anything you don't like, there are ways of addressing them. And when I went through all that, I had to write her I wrote her a message and told her to quietly find a way to go and apologize to the Senate President for that altercation in the chamber. I was doing it very patriotically. I didn't know that more things would still come out in the media. So the thing is that the Senate is not a place where you expect people there to behave like young people. We are no longer young people. We are senior citizens in this country. That is why in that chamber you have former governors, retired permanent secretaries, former deputy governors, and people who have been in the Senate, sometimes some of them 4 or 5 tenures. So it's not a place you want us to be discussing trivial things. We had to focus on issues of national importance, things that will help us drive the nation, on a stride of development and progress.
All right, Senator Umeh.
So I'm not happy. I'm not happy with what has happened, and it was uncalled for.
Indeed, it's a whole gamut of issues. The rules of the Senate, issues of national importance, they're important. But I'm not quite sure which trumps the other here, because there are also issues of visibility, representation, as it has to do with gender, that are also as important. But I'm not going to overflog that issue, because we want to, as much as possible, take advantage of this opportunity that we have with you to look at other leadership issues. And I'd like you to speak to what seems to have played out in 2 state assemblies over the last couple of weeks, Rivers State and Lagos State. For Lagos State, it appears to have been settled, but Rivers is still unfolding. But there are critical leadership issues, which also have to do with you know, party interventions or otherwise. Do you believe that the truth of what exactly is going on has been sacrificed on the altar of you know, party supremacy on the one hand, and on the other hand, judicial interventions that are debatable? And so where lies the template of ideal leadership in these state assembly matters?
Well, the truth of the matter is that people leave the substance and continue to chase and investigate shadows. Every parliament has its own rules, how it regulates its own activities. In the case of the Lagos State House of Assembly, one would expect that what people should be asking will be the rules of the House of Assembly of Lagos State. How do you conduct your proceedings? If the rule is that the Speaker is the presiding officer, which he ought to be, the day you say you are removing him from office, the question will be, was he presiding on that date? Or was he present in the chamber when that happened? After the first adjournment, I mean the adjournment with which he traveled overseas. When the presiding officer adjourns proceedings to a date certain, before you can reconvene the assembly in his absence, there are a lot of procedures you have to go through to be able to reconvene the House. But in the case of Lagos State House of Assembly, I understand the Speaker was away in America, and he was impeached. That will amount to shaving a man's head in his absence. So if you breach the rules of the parliament, people will begin to question what you did, whether it is right or wrong, before you begin to take sides. So when he was removed, I was in Lagos at the weekend when he returned. People lined the streets waiting to receive him. I think he lives along Jewel Ogunaike Street in Ikeja. I passed through that road that day. The place was filled with people. It showed that something wrong had happened. And for the House of Assembly to have removed him while he was away, the first question was were they right to have impeached him in his absence? If they had the majority, as we were made to believe, or they want us to believe, they would have waited for him to come back, to be on his seat, and somebody will move a motion. You know, at that time he will be helpless, and the majority will overwhelm him. But they did this in his absence and wanted to be protected. So I think what has happened didn't happen through due process, and the matter was also taken to court. If they were strong enough to hold on to their positions, you don't start talking about party supremacy. A lawmaker, when he's elected, is in the chamber. When you take oath of office, you begin to act as a lawmaker, and in accordance with the rules of that parliament where you have been elected to.
Right.
So for them to now say, I saw some people arguing that they didn't consult their party members before they impeached him.
Right.
When you elect somebody or elect and constitute a House of Assembly, the lawmakers are on their own to conduct their own affairs. They don't need to be delegated by anybody. So if they feel very strongly about anything and they feel that they have the requisite number, they go by the rules. If they go by the rules, you don't talk about party supremacy.
All right.
Yes,
Senator
because
Umeh.
they've been elected and they're not answerable to the people and not only to their party members. So if they have capitulated and gone back to resign after they assumed office and then turned around to elect somebody they have impeached over gross misconduct allegations and so on and so forth, it means that they're not serious.
All right.
So to that extent, I think what happened in Lagos should be allowed to rest, since those who impeached him have stepped down and re-elected him. So I think that speaker is a strong speaker, and he should be held for holding his fort. Then
very interesting submissions, Senator Umeh.
River State. You have a follow-up question on this?
Well, yes, but we have so much to cover in this conversation. There's still the Anambra elections, which is coming, which I know is perhaps one of the top issues on your mind, because elections are a big deal for politicians. But I just wanted to link this to, the national sense of the quality of leadership, quality of representation in that sense. I mean, we can look at what's playing out in River State and still draw inferences from that. The Lagos scenario, there is Osun. You hardly look around and not find issues here and there. And I just wanted to speak to what has been that question, age-long question, quality of leadership in Nigeria. For you as a leader of your people, also a leader in the Senate, what is the primary concern for you, and maybe for others as well? Is it the people, right? In the Lagos or Rivers issues, people tell you, well, politicians are in it for themselves. It's primarily for their own personal gain, their political structure, their protection. So what guides your decisions, your actions? Is it the people? Is it your own personal ambition preserving you in power, or preserving that institution in that sense? What is the key thing for you, and why have we not been able to see that play out in the, well, eventual outcome of leadership? Because it looks like leadership is far from the people.
Well, the primary purpose of governance is to pursue the well-being of the people, protection of lives and properties, and then the general well-being of the people. That is the primary responsibility of governance. And if you seek to be elected into any position, the people should be the center of your focus, how to advance the well-being of the people. In Nigeria today, from what you see playing out around the country, particularly the areas you have referred to, you see that there are people who have found themselves where they ought not to be. Because if you are a man or a woman strong enough to be in leadership, nobody should be teleguiding you. That was why I was telling you that in the Lagos Assembly, talking about party supremacy when you have been elected into office should not arise again. Because once you take oath of office, you are accountable to the people, and you take full responsibility of your actions in the parliament. So those places where people are smuggled into office without necessarily going through the process of winning positions through the votes of the people, those who put them in those positions continue to manipulate them. And that is where you begin to see things that make adults begin to act like children. So the Constitution is very clear on all matters. And if you are in any position of authority and you are well-meaning, you must be guided, one, by the Constitution and the rule of law. These are the things you must consider before you begin to take any action. Not when you are somewhere, somebody calls you to a house, you go there, meet, and you take instructions. You run to the parliament and begin to execute directives given to you by somebody. That is the things we have, because those people are not independent people. If you are independent-minded and you are in a position to think about the people, nobody can railroad you into doing anything that will upstage the state or the affairs of the state, or something that will diminish governance. So it's not something that you go there and begin to play Russian roulette with your position. Yes.
Yeah, it will not be fair to have you and not talk about Anambra elections, because our time is fast spent. So let's talk about the elections coming up. I know you're in the Labour Party, and we've seen what has been playing out, especially in Labour Party and the PDP. I think I read somewhere where the Labour Party said there is no there's no plan for a merger. So Valentino Zibo, who was a strong member of the Labour Party, has now joined the APC. He contested in the last election. So where does this leave the Labour Party in the coming elections? You are a major leader of that political party as far as the Southeast and Anambra is concerned.
Well, one thing you cannot take away from people is their personal right to any decision. If somebody is looking for something, he's in the best position to determine what is most appropriate for him, particularly in what he's seeking to achieve. Election in Anambra State will take place on 8th of November, and today is just 5th of March. So we still have a long time away to that election, about 8 months. So many things are yet to evolve. There are yet to be nomination of candidates. And when we begin to question actions of people way ahead of the contest, you lose direction. We have to wait patiently. I'm not a new person in this process. I know that before you begin to discuss people and their chances, it will be when they have emerged as candidates in their parties. So Anambra State people have no choice to make at this time because nobody is a candidate of any political party yet. When the nominations come and people are nominated by their parties, the choices will become available for people to make. So for now, I would say that people are just playing politics of convenience. And by the time the critical time comes, when you make that important choice, who becomes the next governor or who wins the election on the 8th of November 2025, you will see people stepping up their calculations. And we'll begin to look at them in terms of who do we send, who do we choose. So political parties are going through their own problems. There are parties that may be having problems now, and their problems may be resolved before the election.
So, Senator.
So what is important is the candidates that will emerge from each platform.
All right.
And how the people of Anambra State will assess that person.
So, Senator, in other words,
there are too many things
what a
that
lot
will
of people want to also know, pardon me to button, Senator, in other words, are you rejoining APGA? Are you going to APC, or you're staying in Labour Party? So we can talk about you at least.
My brother, I'm a member of Labour Party. I'm a senator elected on the platform of the Labour Party. I am in the National Assembly as a senator of the Labour Party. Have you heard me say I'm running for governor and then looking for a place to run for governor through? I'm doing my work. And that does not mean that if there are issues that will necessitate a certain line of action, that one will not take it. If I was in APGA and during the last election, I was stopped from flying the flag of the party. So if I'm in the Labour Party and some people want me not to fly the flag of the Labour Party, what would you want me to do? So there's nothing like that for now. I'm doing my work, and when we get to the point where this type of question will be necessary, I'll answer it. So I'm here working. I'm a member of the Labour Party, and I'm a senator doing my work. I don't have any problem right now. So my work is to do my service to my people through this very platform that got me elected. And for the challenges in the party, it depends on how they manage it. If they don't manage the problems rocking the party, everybody will have to find his way.
All right, Senator, totally out of time. In like 2 seconds, are you going to run for governor anytime?
Am I the subject of this inquest?
Yes, you're part of the subject of the inquest, if you will.
I'm a senator now, and I will be a senator till 2027. So, and the election is the 25th of... 8th of November 2025.
Which is where I was actually asking. I didn't say, are you running for governor in November? I said, are you running for governor anytime soon? But we'll get to bring you back. There's a lot to talk about in terms of the region and your state and your person, Senator Umeh. But I must thank you, Senator representing Anambra Central.
Thank you very much. And I want to part with a word. Let's leave the Senate to function and serve the people. We're not playing Romeo and Juliet in the Senate. Thank you.
Senator, we will continue to hold the Senate accountable because they represent our people. So that's why we ask the question. It's called the People's House for a reason. So the people have no other place to go and knock than the doors of the Senate and the House of Reps. But we must thank you, Senator Umeh, Victor Umeh, representing Anambra Central of the from the Labour Party. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. And we will now take a quick break. We'll switch gears now. We're still, we're not talking about Senator Umeh. We'll talk about the broader conversation around the Southeast region, security, economy, and everything in between. Join us again.
So let's get right into it. Issues that concern the southeast region of the country. We're joined on the program, as you've seen, by public affairs analyst and former chief technical advisor to Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State on the new Imo project, Mr. Jerry Chukwueke is right with us in our Lagos studio. You're welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
It's good to have you. You know, we just had that conversation with Senator Umeh,
yes,
and somehow we still talked about the southeast in some sense. There's elections coming in Anambra State. That's on the one hand, but the bigger conversation around insecurity still remains. The effect on the economy of the Southeast, the livelihoods of the people. There's still the debate about Nnamdi Kanu in court as well, how the government is able to handle the situation. So it's a lot of issues put together in one, but I want to start by getting your reaction to the handling of the issues of the Southeast, particularly by the Tinubu government, security and other issues. How would you rate the Tinubu government?
Well, first, let me, quite frankly, appreciate the work governors at the subnational level in the Southeast and the security agents have done so far in trying their best to ensure sufficient security. But now more has to be done. More has to be done. My view is that new ideas and new ways of doing business when it comes to security have to come to play now. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The governor of my state in Imo, with major infrastructural development as focus, empowerment of young people from a viewpoint of digital economy and bringing them to the workforce globally. Now talking about an amnesty program that is more robust. You see what Governor Soludo is doing as well in Anambra State from a different perspective. What the governor in Enugu State is doing, what's happening in Abia. But let's be clear. I think we need to dimension this a bit. We have a situation where in some parts of the Southeast, the issue of herdsmen and farmers and how that's affecting food security is an issue. And so you have to appreciate what the federal government is talking about now, particularly the Ministry of Livestock, that we need to embrace change with regards to the concept of ranches, in view of the fact that we get to grow the agricultural value chain. That's important. That's a new way of doing business. So we need to be open to that in the Southeast and embrace it so we can actually take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity. It's important because there's money to be made in agricultural value chain, jobs to be created. Because a good chunk of the insecurity is about economic empowerment. We say in America, economy is stupid.
So basically what you're saying is, because my question was predicated on how you would rate President Bola Tinubu so far in his administration, or at least intervention in the Southeast. So are you saying that primarily the responsibility is with the subnationals, the governors?
No, I've made the point that the Minister of Livestock is pursuing now a strategy of ranching. so we can actually grow the agricultural value
chain. So you think the president has done right by the Southeast?
Oh, absolutely. Let me even connect some more. I listened carefully to Mr. President at their caucus meeting. By the way, I am a chieftain of the APC. I think it's better put on the table. And he was talking about why we ought to be a bit more patient and hopeful, because the painful pill, the evil necessity of removing the subsidy, fuel subsidy, is now starting to pay off. And you can see that it's starting to pay off, because we have a situation where allocation to the states and local governments have more than tripled. That's important. We now have a situation where crude oil production is now hovering about 1.4 million barrels a day, compared to the 750,000 only a few years ago. So we're earning more foreign exchange. We certainly have more crude for the refiners in our domestic economy. But it now means that the subnationals have greater opportunities to focus on creating more economic opportunities for our people. So I'm linking that to say it is a consequence of President Bola Tinubu's firm policy to say this is a necessary evil, but we need to go through it and then enjoy the dividends. We'll stand to see it, even in the stabilization now of the foreign exchange, in terms of the naira value. But let's go beyond that. If you look at the Southeast, what we're hoping will begin to happen some more is how the focus on local government administrations can bring about economic flow, money flow. Not necessarily anymore money flowing only around a few people, because that's been a challenge in the Southeast, and by extension, many parts of Nigeria. Let the little people, the average man, in the local communities, suppliers, vendors, people who ordinarily would find an opportunity to make a living. We need to give them that opportunity, because we need to keep our people busy, particularly the young people.
Isn't that where we should be asking the governors where the extra money
that's the point I'm making
is going to?
Yes, so that's the point, ma'am. So here's the point, and I'll connect them. You have much more robust allocation. We now have the opportunity to do more. I understand political controls over local government structures. That's not my argument. My argument is that we need to allow those local governments to function sufficiently from a viewpoint of the economy, so the average people can benefit from this robust application of FARC now that is coming as a consequence of the privatization and the issue of removing the subsidy. So here's the point. If you go to many of our local communities, and particularly for our young people and women, and they have access to basic opportunities of money flow, that's a big issue, because the monies are circulating only amongst a few people, and the vast majority of our people are not benefiting from it. So local government effective application would definitely help, monitored well, so people can have more access to the wealth creation opportunities and the consequence of the new situation.
Let's tie this to the concern of insecurity in the Southeast. Before the local governments can function, there must be a sense of safety in those local communities. But we find that the stability that some parts of the Southeast are beginning to enjoy, i.e., Enugu, I'm not sure I can say the same 100% for Abia, and not necessarily in other parts like Anambra, where the decomposing body of a lawmaker was found on the second Niger Bridge in recent times. And in 2022, another state assembly lawmaker was murdered. Just in January alone, in Imo State, in some communities, about 18 people were killed. Why aren't we seeing a deliberate intentional collaboration amongst the governors of the Southeast to stem the tide in insecurity, particularly now that they have more resources to work with when you consider increased allocation from the Federation account?
Look, I absolutely buy the argument. And this is where the governor of my state, who is a chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum, has an important opportunity. Because we can actually align the strategies at the subnational levels to focus on what we need to achieve generally. Because Imo is a gateway. You come into Imo, you go Imo West, you are facing Anambra State. You go Imo North, you are facing Enugu and Abakaliki. It's very serious. So it's easy to penetrate Imo from a viewpoint of insecurity and use it as a focus point. So the point is, can there be more collaboration? Absolutely. And that's where new ideas and new ways of doing business must come to play. I'll give you an example, which is why I'm also excited about the Southeast Development Commission and what the president has done with it. It's an opportunity for collaboration, where our states in the Southeast can identify common empowerment opportunity programs, more so now that there is more money in the system to focus on economic empowerment of our people, particularly young men and women, and in fact, those that are outside the safety net. We need to bring more people along. The more they are busy and they have opportunities to earn a living and feed their families, they'll be too busy to focus on criminality.
All right, Mr.
So I'm making that connection because it's important.
Because of time, let's look at promises made and promises, and the disappointment that comes from not fulfilling those promises as far as this is concerned. I heard you talk about Southeast Development Commission. It's a brilliant idea, but it depends on who you're talking to about relevance or not relevant, but the idea has been in the works for a long time. But we have other models like the NDDC. How much has that done intervening in the Niger Delta? So your answer is as good as mine in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. Would this really change anything? So I want you to speak to the issue of the government led by the governors themselves being strong enough, having the political will to make promises and fulfill them, because failure to do that is a reason for some of these things we're trying to deal with that are discussing some of the insecurity that we're dealing with in the Southeast region.
Yes, so I also agree with that point. And that's why I make the point that we need more fresh ideas, new blood, and new focus.
What do you mean by new blood?
So here's what I mean. People who are not necessarily professional politicians. There's nothing wrong with being a politician. But I think it's more important to also have people who understand driving processes from a viewpoint of the private sector training. Because you focus on results. I mean, and you can look at the Southeast and across the country.
Soludo is from private sector.
Yes.
Mba is from the private sector.
Yes.
Alex Oti is from the private sector.
Yes.
Who else is the other governor?
My governor is from the private sector, particularly oil and gas. Yes.
Well, he's also been in the political space.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying, so that's the point. So what I'm saying is, we need to deploy new ideas of how to deal with these issues. And they're not very complicated in my view. For example, it is important for our governors of the Southeast to become the architects of mobilizing our people, key stakeholders, business members of the community, religious leaders, professionals in our local governments to focus on our local government security challenges and what we can do together. It is not only the governors that can solve this problem. We need all of us working together. And so many new ideas have to come to play.
So give us one of these ideas you're talking about so that we're in practical terms.
Yes.
One idea, straight up.
So I'll give you just one out of many. I think it is important that we now begin to have in our states employment departments. If you have, for example, in my state or southeastern states, Ministry of Employment, what we'll be gunning for is to gather data. Who and who in our state are looking for work, what is their qualification? Where do they live? What skill sets do they need for their training? Do they need incubation? Can we help them with job placement? That's a new idea. Right. It requires a structure. And I'm saying we do it in the private sector because we incubate our people to bring them into mainstream by internships. It's not that expensive to do.
Well,
that's important. For example,
it's very interesting, this conversation, because what you find a lot of times is technocrats come into governance, and a lot of times you see them flop because politics is actually rocket science, as someone has said. That you need to balance a lot of interests. So if you are trying to go, corporates, they'll tell you, no, this is not corporate. You have to drop that toga. But quickly, extra states creation, more states creation. I'm sure you've heard that conversation time and again. Let me mention them. Pardon me. So states like Olu, Aba, Urashi, Etiti. Do you think that will Anyoma? Do you think that will solve the problem?
Well, guess what? There's been a long-standing issue in the Southeast about being shortchanged in state creation. I think everybody understands that. But that's not my focus. What drives the issue of states creation, just as local government, is allocation from the center. It means you are getting more money allocated. Right. I come from the school of thought that what we need to do is create more wealth for our people.
So not more states?
I'm not saying that necessarily.
All right.
I'm saying that we, even as we speak, have sufficient opportunities to create real empowerment for our people and keep them busy.
All right.
The busier, the less insecurity.
There you go. A very interesting conversation, but we have to thank you so much, Mr. Jerry Chukwueke, Public Affairs Analyst and former Chief TA to Governor Uzodimma on new Imo project. Wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Good luck. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll talk bilateral relations. What is Nigeria doing with Taiwan? How well are we maximizing this global village concept? That's in a moment, so stay with us.
Welcome back. And so it's a very busy international scene currently. Of course, you heard earlier that the president has been able to secure, business interests to Nigeria to the tune of 50 billion naira in proposed interest. But what's also dollars, right? Yeah, thank you, Kadi. So what's also happening back home in terms of, improving bilateral relations, but specifically with a particular country, and that is Taiwan. So let's talk Nigeria-Taiwan relations. And joining us for this important conversation is Ambassador Lee, I want to get that name correctly, Ambassador Andy Yih-Ping Liu. He's the Taiwan representative in Nigeria, and he joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for having me onto this esteemed program. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to start this way. There's been a lot of, talk about Nigeria-Taiwan relations, and you've been also in the news recently urging the president to sign up to, a particular agreement. I'm trying to get the name now. That's the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement. And prior to that time, there's also been advocacy for the movement of the Taiwan embassy to Abuja from Lagos. Give us, bring us up to speed with the progress that the Taiwan, foreign mission has achieved in that space.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to explain certain background, but I'll give you the update information. It's actually started from almost 1.5 years ago when when His Excellency President Bola Tinubu, during his presidential campaign, he made it clearly and openly in one particular occasion that he would like to make the southeast of Nigeria become Taiwan of Africa. He didn't mention other countries like Korea, China, but specifically Taiwan. That was November 2022. And a few months later, he got elected. We had a congratulation to him, and we opened it right to him that we are all ready on my side for the government and the people of Taiwan to get a really strong relation with Nigeria. Because that is the window of opportunity to strengthen the bilateral relation. Because in one hand, Taiwan had all the know-how and technology that the world really admire. And Nigeria, you have all the natural resources that we don't have. We envy you so much. Because Taiwan is an island around 5 to 6 times larger than Lagos State, but we have no natural resources at all. But we have all the natural disasters that you don't have. Earthquake, volcano, typhoon, tsunami. You have nothing here, we have all of them. But we have nothing but only the brain power. So that's why we have to explain how Taiwan developed ourselves into the best technology of the world that we're holding now, because it's based on the instinct of survival. We have nothing in our island but full of natural disasters. So the only thing we can do is to invest generation of education to build up our workforce continuously. And up to now, we can proudly say that our illiteracy in Taiwan is less than 2%. That means 98% of our people can read and write and can work. This is the only way we can keep ourselves as a sustainable way to develop ourselves from agriculture, light industry, heavy industry, to high technology industry. And we still keep them all in our island. Because we are facing, most of the time, beside from the natural disaster, there's a big brother standing beside us. It's called China. They've been bullying and threatening Taiwan for more than half a century, but luckily, no exchange of fire or war between us, because both sides know that peaceful coexistence is the most important thing. We need to keep our good trading, our good investment going. So there was a time that China is our largest trading partners. So both sides are very practical, and we keep the good relation of mutually respect. At the same time, we want to do business. This is exactly what our government have been approached by your government in 1990s. So our mission set up here in Nigeria 1991 and stay all the way until today with full diplomatic immunity and privilege without the name of the embassy. This shows exactly how practical and creative Nigerian government and the people have been. So we are proudly to be part of the Nigerian development into the non-oil economy, because we stand for the model. And Taiwan is the top model recognized by Madame Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala from the World Trade Organization as the top 20 best trading model in the world. This is what Taiwan can offer to Nigeria, because we know how to survive without any natural resources, and we sustain and we survive and we come up to the best performance in the world. So this is the opportunity we think that Nigerian government has grabbed so tightly, because the agreement that you had just mentioned, the Investment Protection and Promotion Agreement called IPPA, had already been done with all the negotiation between Nigeria and Taiwan through the governmental negotiation. Now it's waiting for the final stage of signing. I'll be signing on behalf of my country, and your trade commissioner in Taiwan will sign on that agreement on behalf of your government. It will provide the best protection from your federal government and my government to our people investment into Nigeria and Nigerian investment in Taiwan. This is a mutually trading.
So Nigerians that are listening, it's quite exciting how you put this together, just the differences and what opportunities are available for both countries.
Yes.
But in specifics, which industries are we talking about here? What specifics that people want to know when the dots, when the lines are, when all the signatures are appended to those papers? What should we be expecting in what specific areas in terms of industry?
Right, because that will be a comprehensively covered agreement. It covers all aspects of any industry who would like to build investment relation with Taiwan. If we talk about agriculture, if we talk about energy and resources, natural resources, it can all be done, because this is exactly the structure between Taiwan and Australia. Because Taiwan and Australia already have a relation for more than 20 years. Every year, Australia and Taiwan will have a bilateral consultation among the permanent secretary level from the federal government of Australia with Taiwan on 3 topics: agriculture, energy, and mining. Isn't that fit into Nigeria category? You have the best natural resources in Africa. Nobody can deny that. And Taiwan is such a faraway island from Nigeria. But with the IPPA being properly negotiated and being signed in the near future, we believe that your natural resources, even from agriculture to mining and to energy, can be utilized by our investor coming into Nigeria. So talk about special category. Sorry, I cannot provide you with a specific category, but everything comprehensively covered, provided by Nigeria and offered to our investor to consider. We will consider, because that is the IPPA we badly needed for our investor and for your investor to come to Taiwan. You have so many Nigerian good trading partners in Taiwan doing export of machinery, automobile parts, and fabric into Nigeria. So we already have so many well-built trading relations. So once the IPPA being signed, and with the permanent secretary level delegation coming from Nigeria to Taiwan, and without delegation coming to Nigeria, then the model of Taiwan and Australia can be utilized here in Nigeria. That would be the most healthy relation. Yes.
Interesting. I know there's a lot of history, even in the past few years. The former government of Muhammad Buhari moved your office to Lagos. That's why you're asking for it to be moved back to Abuja. Yeah. And time and again you said, well, Taiwan is different from China. We don't want to get into all of that, politics and all of that. We understand that history and how it has been. So it's understandable that you want it moved back to the nation's capital, which is Abuja. I don't know how far that has come. But back to the point you made about what you have and what we have. We had a conversation at the start of the show how, Africa or Nigeria has just always been seen from that lens. You have the raw, the natural resources, bring it, let us process it for you, and then we'll sell back a finished product to you. And it raises a question of technology transfer.
Yes.
Right. So how much of technology will be transferred? You have the largest, I think, chip maker company in the world, TSMC?
TSMC, yes.
Exactly. How much of that technology would you be willing to share and domicile here in Nigeria? Because, hey, we have the people. I mean, we have fantastic human resources. Okay. We have very intelligent people. There is land and all of that. But how well or how much are you willing to share technology and leave it here?
Thank you so much. That is an excellent question. 2 days ago, the U.S. President Donald Trump announced in the White House, together with the chairman of the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company called TSMC. TSMC is going to invest $100 billion in the U.S. within the coming 2 to 3 years. $100 billion. That is the biggest single investment from any foreign country into the U.S. in the history. So that demonstrates how strong our semiconductor company and the capability are doing. But that is the most advanced high technology. If we come down to reality, then what Nigeria will need for our investment or our technology coming into Nigeria would depend very much on your government, your federal government approach to us. But your federal government cannot just come up with anything. They have to go around to ask different states, because you have 36 states plus FCT. Every state has its own specialty and its own special interests. So that is what Australia has been doing. The federal government would ask from all the governors what your state would need from Taiwan to do technology, know-how, training, and also investment. Then your federal government will come up with a complete list of agenda to discuss with Taiwan. Then your federal government will take the lead with all the interests expressed by the state government, what Nigeria and each of the individual states would like to do with Taiwan. So that is the most practical way, because we cannot just come to Nigeria and selling our product and selling our technology. You have to have your own agenda. What is the best and priority for each of the states? Because my first coming to Nigeria was 1993. I was posted to Calabar, Cross River State, establish a consulate. I stayed 4 years in Calabar. I enjoyed all the good fish pepper soup, of course. But at the same time, most of the eastern area, they asked me how Taiwan will help them. I said exactly the same answer I answered 30 years after today. Your federal government have to take the lead to be the platform of collecting all the interests and priority from each state. Because each state might have different interests. From rivers, you might have the energy. From other states, you might have agriculture. You might have some other states with good minerals. They want to have Taiwan exporting our own technology and our own investment. Then your federal government, with a federal ministry like Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, or Ministry of Technology and Science, they will come up with a team. Then approach to our mission, and we send back to Taiwan, and now Taiwan will send a delegation coming to Nigeria to have a face-to-face negotiate.
But I'm particular about semiconductors, chips, manufacturing. Can we have that here? Yes, we have the resources, but we need to also ensure that it's domiciled here. Is that something that is going to happen?
Yes, because before our TSMC make that investment announcement in the White House, our investor from TSMC had already done setting up complete manufacturing factory in Japan and in Germany for the last 2 years. They haven't come to Africa yet. But our best technology for e-mobility, which is the solar energy driving of motorcycle and automobile, are coming to Nigeria, because November last year, they have already come to Lagos to launch the first ever electrical motorcycle ever in Africa here in Nigeria, combining the NNPC investment of solar energy installed in one of the filling stations. Right. So that technology we're talking about of importing, because we have to have step to step. Because if we jump up to the best technology, it's going to take a few years to get there. But we need to get into a very reliable and practical way of importing our technology into Nigeria. But we all have to come back to the IPPA.
So all of these are contained in the IPPA, right?
Yes.
In 60 seconds, do you sense a hesitancy on the part of the Nigerian government to sign up to the IPPA because of Nigeria's commitment to the One China principle and, by extension, the imposing trade relations that Nigeria has with China, which is $20 billion, as against, the lesser measure in terms of trade with Taiwan?
Okay. One China policy is everywhere in the world. So many leading countries in the world, like the US, most of the European countries, Japan, Korea, they all have their One China policy. But it never hampered them to come up with their independent policy toward Taiwan. So they always have our mission in their capital, in Washington, D.C., in Paris, in London, in Tokyo, in Seoul. Our mission are always there, and we're expanding, even in Delhi. Just like India, we already have 3 offices all around India. Besides from Delhi, we have it in Chennai, and we opened a new office in Mumbai just last year. So everybody expanding relation with Taiwan, they will not be hampered or stopped by their One China policy. Because One China policy is only for China. Chinese can never dictating them to do relation with Taiwan. So that's why the Americans have the One China policy, but never hamper us to invest $100 billion.
Do you think China is dictating to Nigeria?
Have nothing to do. You shouldn't take that as a building, at the block of developing with Taiwan, because our mission are in Nigeria for more than 30 years. But how would Nigeria taking that stand and blocking your way of developing with Taiwan? IPPA should be separate issue with the one-child policy. That's what the world.
Brilliant. We're totally out of time. I wanted to ask you about skilling when it comes to technology that Taiwan can bring to Nigeria, but I understand we don't have much time.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope that in the short term rather than long term, Nigeria signs up to the IPPA to enhance bilateral relations with Taiwan. I want to thank you very much, Ambassador Andy Yih-Ping Liu, Taiwan representative in Nigeria, Lagos studio.
Thank you.
We're not just going to give you the fish pepper soup, we're also going to give you a Calabar name, and Jeffrey will do that.
Is it Chief of Mission Trade Relations? So, which name do we give
him? A Calabar name.
Maybe sorry.
I'm thinking of what Calabar name.
Anekan. I don't want to.
We will get together.
Okay.
We'll get together with palm wine, fish peppers, everything.
Eyinabasi means the child of God.
Okay. Ambassador Ping Liu, Eyinabasi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking your time. Thank you so much for taking your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. From here, we move to another equally important conversation. InnovateHer Breakfast. That's the next segment when we focus on the achievements of women in different fields. It's an important conversation, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We live in the digital world in the 21st century. This is 2025, and we need to explore that space, but explore it responsibly. And one of the ways we need to explore responsibly is on guiding our children on how best to use the internet. Else, we may get the results we do not expect to get at the end of the day. And someone who has been at the vanguard of ensuring that this is done responsibly right here in our Lagos studio, confident of saying, the founder and CEO of Internet Safe Kids Africa. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
What triggered the idea for you?
Okay, this whole space of internet safety with focus on children actually started like 8 years back. I was the lead of a cybersecurity team whose focus was on young children. We actually were going into schools to establish online safety clubs. So every time we went out and we got into these classrooms where students sat, when you first go in, they are all uptight. And you keep wondering, why are they uptight? But when you start talking, you find out that their face is lit up. When you mention words like pornography, their eyes are well lit. And by the end of the section, you hear people, girls like 11, 12 years, 10, coming to tell you, oh, ma, there's something we want to tell you. And you ask them, what? They give you very interesting stories of what they do online. So this journey, I did it for like 4 years with the organization I was working with. And along the line, the organization was profit-driven. It wasn't about making money. So they kind of shut down that department. So I had to take it up on my own. They transferred me to another department, which was the software development section. So I had to like, okay, I'm not going to let these kids get lost in this whole digital space. I'm going to take up this. And I floated Internet Safe Kids Africa 2018. And ever since then, I've been going from schools to schools, talking to students, parents, faith-based schools, community leaders. And it's interesting what you hear and what you see our young people, our children, as low as 7 years, do online. And this was just what triggered it. I'm actually coming from the background of tech. I've been coding, querying databases and all that. But it got to a point I was like, okay, everybody, cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is about safeguarding networks, infrastructure, and data. And I asked myself, what about the people who use this networks and data? Who is safeguarding them? So I made that switch.
It's brilliant to hear, and I just want to dive right in because this is always a very thorny issue,
Yeah.
or very tricky for people to handle. On the one hand, you want to expose them to technology,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't get to global scene and they're shocked. What is AI? You know, we always complain about some schools drawing computers on paper and showing them this is a mouse, this is computer. Give us the computer.
That's how I learned. That's how I learned.
Oh, that's how you learn.
That's how I learned.
Some of us learned that way too. So there was that challenge, and people said, you know what, expose them to technology, let them interact with technology, and then you have the downside. So how do you balance it? Some say, until my child is a certain age, he's not having a mobile phone or access to internet. Some say, no, give them access on time. Just try to find a way to safeguard them. But some say you can't police them too much. They will always find a way. Definitely. So is there a way to go about it that is proven and tested over time?
Sure, there is. First, there's this whole talk about what is the right age. There is no age.
There's no age.
There's no age. And I can say it categorically here. There is no age. What we need to ask ourselves are, our kids, how responsible are they to be online? For the fact that you have a child who can carry their plates to the kitchen or wake up in the morning and lay their bed, do we give that child your car to drive? We don't. So what you do is, before you can even say you're giving your child a phone, or, like I say, usher them into these digital spaces, like orphans. I call them digital orphans, kids that have no guidance and all that. Start some very good conversations on technology way beforehand. Way beforehand.
Like onboarding process.
Onboarding process. Don't just push them into that space. Just like we can't go into a new neighborhood and tell our child, go and play anywhere. You, as the guardian or the parent, would have done some kind of analysis or something about that area. But what do we do these days? We just buy them those gadgets. You know, oh, you did well. A's. I'm going to buy you an iPad. And we connect it to the internet. And just by doing that, we expose them to a whole lot of mishappenings on there. So is it okay to stop them from using technology? No. There has to be a balance. But the balance starts from an early conversation, guiding them. I call it, I have an acronym for it, TEAM. You first talk to them about this space you want them to be on. That is it.
So what would you be saying in this conversation?
With team, we're still on T. So maybe just quickly run us through. T is talk.
Talk to them about this space. Explore their world with them. Explore the digital space with them. Why would your daughter be on TikTok and Snapchat and you have no idea of what that app does?
So join them there.
Join them, but not like a surveillance camera, like a friend.
A friend.
Yes.
They'll block
No, they won't block you. That is the approach. If you come like, hey, what are you wearing? Hey, you're moving with that, but oh, you're talking to a stranger. I will block you if I'm your child.
But why should you, pardon me, why should your child be on TikTok in the first place?
That is the question. Why should your child be there? And at what age? I went in for a section and I saw an 11-year-old on TikTok, and I asked, why are you on TikTok? I don't know. What do you do there? I just watch people. What do you watch? I had to probe. I don't know if I can see it. I had to probe. And where she was always fascinated was in that space where probably a young lady on TikTok, all filtered up with a camera at her backside. You know what they do? And it generates traffic and money for them. So she was looking at it that, oh, you can make money effortlessly like this.
So you're not done. T-E, there's A.
There's A. Agree with them on what is right to do online and what is not right.
Don't impose what is right or wrong.
Yes. Right? Okay. It should be a collaborative thing. You know this, you go to some, I don't know, I'm scared to be on this social media as an adult. I'm there as a brand, where you put just a simple line of comments and boom, they come after you. Imagine a kid who doesn't know right from wrong, who cannot regulate their feelings. They can't label their feelings, goes there and maybe happily, oh, my mom bought me this, and they start. They're already damaging that child's mental health. So you agree with them on what is right to do. You don't go online because there's a screen covering you, open your mouth anyhow and talk to people, or you write comments. You understand? So that is the A aspect. Then the M, manage their device setting. There are spaces in your house when at a particular time a child's phone is not meant to be in those spaces, your bedroom. When most times you find them in their rooms, on the dining. You see some of us, I've been to somewhere where I was talking with somebody and there was a crowd beside me and somebody was talking about somebody in that crowd and I quickly picked up the name, picked up the platform where they were talking about and I went in, I saw everything, the person's house, what they were doing, there was a naming ceremony. We all are fond of, you check somebody, I look you up on your Facebook, you're not even locked. I can access you, I can tell where your house is. There's something called cyber psychology. I can go through your timeline and determine to a level what your lifestyle is, where you're moving to, where you have lived, where you're working. We'll manage their device setting. Work with them collaboratively before you can even think of saying, okay, this is the iPad or this is whatever device, go online. So it's the team. Work with them as a team.
I'm both scared, excited, and...
So it's a blend.
My last question, or my question would be, and I think that would be the last, the reach that you've gotten to with this work of Safe Internet for Africa. What spaces, have you carried this work to, and what's been the reception like?
Okay. We've covered quite a lot of people, but there's still the struggle of people not thinking that there is need to talk about online safety. So we've done like over 2,000 schools, over 300 teachers, because we also train the teachers. And something interesting, I actually like going to the underserved communities where we look at the digital divide. They don't have an access to phones. They are the ones actually really using this. So basically, I do both the rural and the urban areas when it comes to this online safety talk.
Well, thank you so much. I can't forget team in our head.
Yeah.
Confidence Hussein is the founder, CEO of Internet Safe Kids Africa. Thank you for the work you do. It's an important work. So we appreciate you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We will now take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the very last part of the program. Join us again.
Let's talk about food security, particularly for people with special needs, specialized attention, people living with disability. The World Food Program projected that this year, 33.1 million Nigerians will face acute food insecurity. But do we really talk about this topic holistically? Well, let's have that conversation. We're joined on the program by the Country Director, Nigeria CBM Global Disability Inclusion, Abdulaziz Musa, joining us from our Abuja studio. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. Let's get right into it. There's that danger of food insecurity already, but a lot of people don't talk a lot about people living with disability, how this affects them in terms of access to that food in the first place, research about what kind of food is even best for them. It looks like in a world that people are being left behind, people with disability are even being left behind them more. So what challenge are we dealing with here?
Absolutely. Thank you very much and good morning. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak about this very important topic. Yeah, very right. persons with disability even further left behind, in this conversation. So first of all, what do we, it's important to understand, what do we even mean by inclusive food security or right to food? Essentially, it's about ensuring that no one is left behind in the fight against hunger and malnutrition. And it's about also ensuring that we deploy all policies and address systemic barriers to ensure adequate supply of food and sustainable food production in a way that everybody is carried along. Like you rightly said, persons with disabilities have historically been marginalized in these conversations. And this is, no surprise, because if you look at our culture, as individuals, once we hear a person with disability, the thing that comes into our mind, it's, very negative. So you see families where, if they have a person with disability, they tend to think it's some, witchcraft or some very negative cultural belief. And what that does, it excludes. And even when we have laws and policies in place, like the Act that was signed in 2018 and provides for the protection of persons with disabilities, you still see that persons with disabilities are still left behind. And even the policies are not adequately funded to ensure that persons with disabilities are taken care of. And there are certain principles when you're talking about inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially around right to food. So first of all, is non-discrimination. Is ensuring that everybody, regardless of your race, your gender, you are not denied access to food. And unfortunately, in Nigeria now, persons with disabilities, when you go to centers, for example, maybe if you go to the market, you hardly see persons with disabilities. And the reason is very simple. It's not accessible. And I had a friend last week who was telling me a story of how he went to a supermarket here in Abuja, and he was denied entry, and simply because he was a person with disability. So the mindset is that a person with disability is a beggar, and they are not allowed, that entry. The other thing is also accessibility. So ensuring that the right information, physical buildings, markets are accessible for these persons with disability. So if a market is not accessible, to start with, how can a person with disability even participate in, buying and selling, or how can he even go to that market? So those are, some practical issues that needs to be addressed. And I'm happy that Nigeria is making progress towards that by passing the law that recognizes the fundamental rights of persons with disability. And I think to ensure that this is sustainable is to really see food as a fundamental human right, which is also recognized in the United Nations conventions on right to food. So inclusion, it goes mere beyond inclusion of persons with disability, or inclusive right to food goes beyond just providing food, but it ensures, or it ensures that systemic barriers are addressed in a way that persons, most vulnerable persons or communities are able to participate meaningfully in, issues around food security.
If you can hear me. Okay, so, legislation is not in short supply. Apparently, legislation is not in short supply as far as whatever it is we want to do in Nigeria. It's about, number one, people being acquainted with these pieces of legislation. On the other hand, is the implementation of this legislation, if you will, and then enforcing people who default on the laws that guide some of these spaces. If you were to propose effectiveness, looking at these three layers that I've mentioned, what's the best form to get the kind of results so that the persons with disability will feel that sense of inclusion?
I think we need to situate this in the context. Like I said earlier, we live in a society where there's a lot of stigma and discrimination against persons with disabilities. So I think what is really important, because even our politicians, our leaders, or the persons that are supposed to implement the law, they are part of the society that we all live in. So what is important is for us to orientate and disabuse our minds from such beliefs, that keeps us progressing backwards. So it's important that organizations of persons with disabilities, the persons that are also living with the persons that are also with having those disabilities, the lived experiences, are empowered to be able to advocate, so that people are aware that this disability is not a cause. And anybody, unfortunately, with the kind of roots that we have, with the conflict we have, anybody can be disabled at any time. So, and these people also have a whole lot to offer. So if we start from there and, get people to really value and see them as individuals who have something to offer to the development of the country, then our mindset would begin to shift. Because if you look at the law that has been passed, unfortunately, last year, the moratorium passed, which gave about 5 years for public buildings, for example, government buildings to adjust, to make it more accessible. But if you go around today, you see that, the implementation is quite very poor. And, when you speak with people, you hear them say things around, the cost is high. Of course, we need to ensure everyone is not left behind, so which means we need to also invest in the right places. There is something that we call reasonable accommodation, which means addressing certain barriers that limit or hinder the full and meaningful participation of persons living with disability. Right. For example, the use of sign language interpreters, the use of hearing aids, having ramps in place, such things requires investments. And for that investment to be in place, it's important that the persons, responsible for enacting our laws, are also very aware and sensitized on the needs of persons with disabilities. Right. It's only that way that we'll be able to achieve that, that objective. And we can achieve this by empowering persons with disabilities themselves to advocate for themselves. Because that's one key thing. Sometimes because of historical marginalization, you see that they do not have the kind of agency or the confidence to do that on their own. So it's important that they are given that space and also empowered, especially organizations of persons with disabilities, to do that.
Okay, speaking of advocacy for themselves, we've had this conversation relatedly, with other representatives of the group in recent times. And one of the, things that came through was the absence of data. And now we're talking about access of persons with disability to food security. Is there any specific data that we can rely upon that can tell us, okay, these are the numbers of persons with disability who are into agriculture, such that the interventions that they now require in terms of access to market, loans, can be made available to these persons that we can verify that indeed they are persons with disability who are into agriculture? And do you trust that the Nigeria Persons with Disability Commission can champion this, or is it already championing it? So what information can you provide for us in that regard?
Sadly, I would say we do not have adequate data, and this is no different with majority of other sectors. And you're absolutely right, because if we do not have data, then how can we adequately make provisions for the needs of the persons with disabilities? And yes, the Commission for Persons with Disabilities can rightfully champion this, and it has started, with the engagement it's having with different stakeholders. You also have different organizations of persons with disabilities, such as the network umbrella body, like Jonapid, who is also championing data collection. But I think it's important that, in all that we do, for example, in the censor, which is being carried out, now not done, different programs of government, such as social protection programs, intervention programs that are being implemented in different states, that data on disability is also captured. And this is really, really key, because if we do not have that, just like with any other sector, it's not going to be possible. Today we have, over 30 million, according to the report, different data that we're looking at. And this is also, debatable, and I know we have more than that. But right. Imagine 30 million people, that's about a state, of persons, or even more than a state of people living with persons with disabilities. So if we're not able to, ascertain those needs and plan, then you can be rest assured that, we'll still be going back in circles.
Very important point
without adequately addressing those specific needs. And what is even more important, in the rooms where these discussions are held, it's key that persons with the lived experiences themselves are in that room. We have an old saying that you cannot barb, in your house, that you cannot eat onions, with somebody's mouth. So it's important that those persons are there, which is, nothing without us, nothing about us without us. So it's really important. It's not just a slogan, because if we do not wear the shoe,
Mr. Musa,
they certainly would not know.
And I think that's a really great place to anchor on this point. Nothing for us without us is a very, very important saying. And for people who, when they hear anything disability, they just tune off. You need to change your ways. But we have to thank you so much, Mr. Abdulaziz Musa, Country Director, Nigeria, CBM, Global Disability Inclusion. Thank you for your time and for reminding us of some of these very important issues. Thank you. Well, there you have it. That's what we anchor on the show this morning. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
We promise an even better package, a bumper one, tomorrow. I am Bukola Kuka.
I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye. Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour.